Once you've got your saw assembled, one of the first things to check is the laser alignment. So it says in the instruction manual that you should stick some cardboard onto the table. So I didn't cut all the way through the cardboard because I wanted it to stay together. And now I'm going to switch on the laser. Now you can see that that is not aligned. So to adjust it, what you've got to do is come around to this side, go down, and then look underneath the pivot. So you can see the laser there, look. Right, and just there's a little screw that you adjust. So you need a Phillips screwdriver to adjust that. Slacken that off, and that will allow you to twist the laser. I've already slackened that off, so I can actually adjust the laser by turning it. Now you can see that turning it is moving the laser. You've got to try get that lined up with the cardboard. There, I think that's perfect. So then just nip up the screw. Then it says if the laser is parallel to the saw blade, which it is, but if it's to either side, then you've got to make an adjustment on the right hand side of the saw as you're looking at it, and I'll show you that now. That is the laser, and there are the two screws. You've got to slacken them and slide it either to the left or the right until it runs along the saw cut, and then that is the laser adjusted. The next thing to do is to make sure that the blade is perpendicular to the table. So in order to do that, I'm going to unplug the machine. Pull the blade down and lock it. In order to check that the blade is perpendicular, you're going to need a set square. So place it flat on the table and then push it up against the blade. Once it's touching the blade, you've got to make sure that it's not touching any of the tungsten carbide teeth, because they'll push it away from the blade slightly. And then check that that square is touching from top to bottom all the way along. Then you know it's perpendicular. So if it's not perpendicular, when you look at that set square, then the adjustment is on the left hand side of the machine at the back. The first thing to do is to slacken off the locking nut for the bevel so that the saw moves quite easily. Then slacken off that locking nut. Now I find it easy to just take that locking nut off completely, because then it makes it far more accessible. Well, that looks absolutely perfect to me. So I'm happy that's at 90 degrees. So now I've got to lock that in position. Put the Allen key back in without moving it. I actually put the nut down. Just hand tighten it at first. That's hand tight. Then hold this to stop it from moving. And nip up that locking nut. There we go. Yeah, that looks beautiful. So I'm happy with that. So now we've got the blade perpendicular to the table. The next thing we've got to check is the actual 45-degree bevel adjustment. This top fence slides backwards and forwards. So if you have it pushed up this way as far as it'll go, when you try and tilt the blade over, it's going to contact that fence. So just slacken off this nut here, which is the second one along, pull it back, and that allows you to tilt that saw over to 45 degrees. You need to check that 45 degree angle with a square. Now It's very, very tight to get anything in there. Luckily for me, I've got something that'll go in there to check 45 degrees. So to adjust it, you come to the right hand side of the machine, as you're looking at it from the front. And there's the adjustment for the 45 degree bevel there. So again, you need to make sure that this locking knob is slackened off so that you can adjust the angle. And then I'm going to do exactly the same as I did with the other one. I'm going to take this nut off and then adjust it with an Allen key. If I adjust the Allen key, can you see that moving the saw? So it's a case of moving that until the blade is at 45 degrees to the table. Now, let me see where we are. The top wants to come towards me very, very slightly. So let's have a look. Who wants to bet I turn it the wrong way? No, that's the right way. So that's maybe a little bit too much. Let's have a look and see. It is absolutely spot on where it is. I'm going to go through the same procedure for locking this. I'm going to put the Allen key in that way so I've got more leverage, taking care not to move the grub screw. Then I'm going to slide the nut down, and then I'm going to hold this while I nip this up. There we go. Yeah, I'm happy with that. The next thing we've got to check is that the actual blade is 90 degrees to the fence, which is fairly simple really. Again with the set square. Now this thing is not plugged in, and if you're lucky you'll have a set square that will just slide up against it without lifting this guard up, but I'm going to have to lift the guard up in order to move it in to there, making sure it's pressed against the fence very, very slightly out. In order to line that angle up, you've got to move this fence either that way or that way until it's lined up with this at 90 degrees. There's a locking screw in there which is underneath this top section of the fence. Now this actually slides back to give you access to that screw in there. You can just see it there if I get the angle right on the camera. So there's one on that side, there's one there on that side. Now you can see that the holes that they're in are elongated, so you slacken those. We need to slacken those off, not too much because we don't want to make them too slack. There's a slight amount of resistance there. There we go. Now you can see that that table is now free moving. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to nip these up slightly so that I can still move it, but it's not so free. It's not perfect, but we'll try that, see how it goes. Lay the set square on the bed and then we move it whichever way it needs to go till it's square. So yeah, that looks fine to me. So I'm going to nip that up, trying not to move it. Easier said than done, but we'll try. So very carefully, just a slight nip on that one and a slight nip on that one, and I'll just see where we are now. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So tighten that up. And tighten that up, and then one final check to make sure it's still at 90 degrees. That looks fine, and then we can slide that fence back across again and tighten it back up. That is it. That is the saw set up, ready to go, so it should cut very, very good miters now. Just as a matter of interest, now that I've actually set the saw, I'm going to put it up to 45 degrees. Clamp that down, and while I've got my trusty old Stanley square, I'll just see, I'm going to have to move the blade guard up, so I've got the machine unplugged, that's not an issue, and I'm just going to slide that up against the blade. Now, there are some teeth there, but that looks perfect to me. Very, very happy with the way that thing looks. So I reckon we're ready to go. So, that's setting up the saw, the laser, vertical 45 degrees and 90 degrees to the table. Pretty simple to do. Well worth checking when you get a machine like this, just to make sure it's set up properly. For the sake of spending about 15-20 minutes, you can get the thing set up so it cuts very, very accurately. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Feel free to subscribe, and the next thing I'm going to do within the next few days is to use the machine a bit, and I'll post a review on it just to see what it cuts like and basically give you my opinion. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Cheers.